Okay folks, you can see we have the Subaru Forester in the garage. I don't have it jacked up yet, so that's going to be the first thing, is we're going to try to take off some of the air intake stuff up here to allow for better access there before we jack it up, because once we jack it up, it'll probably be a little harder to do that. And this has a lift, so it's kind of high already. And but we're going to put the rear tires on ramps, and then I'm going to, because the rear tires are going to stay on there, and then the front tires are going to have to come off so I can get the axles out, because the axles go directly to the transmission, so there's no other way to do that. So we're going to disconnect the drive shaft and then work on some of the other connections up here, but I will take you through all that. And then as you can see over here, we have a pressure plate, clutch. I believe this is the throwout bearing, and then this is the little bearing that goes, I think, in the flywheel. So we're going to have to take off the flywheel and get it resurfaced, I believe, most likely. These parts are from Japan, and then these two parts are from China, so I'm not wild about that, but I believe Exedy, there's no R in there, is the OEM stuff. So I'm gonna get a Sharpie too, so we're gonna label everything in plastic bags as the parts come off and bolts come off. We're gonna label them where they go, and then I actually have little tags to put little things like the little electrical connectors, so we make sure we put them back in the right section. And just, you know, full disclosure, I am not a mechanic. I am pretty handy, but I am not a mechanic. And I am a little ashamed about how dirty this engine bay is. Just my daughter has has done a real good job washing the outside of it, but not so much the engine bay part of it, which that's probably will fall to me anyway. So anyways, well, I'll pick you up when we get more along, and it, you know, when we get more of it set up. Okay, as you can see, I have it another, I don't know, whatever that is, 8-10 inches higher. We need to elevate it because I'm not cool enough to have a lift. So, you know, like I said, I'm not a mechanic, but I'm gonna jack this up, probably put some like concrete caps, like 2 or 3 high, and then put the jack stands on it, so the jack stands aren't overly extended. And then in here, you can see we have pretty easy access. That's the top of the transmission right there. So I did watch one video that was pretty long, but it was pretty useful. We're going to take apart a number of these things, and he said something about taking a bracket apart, so we're probably going to do that. Probably that bracket right there, maybe? I don't know, we'll find out. But he said, like this right here, those little connections right there gotta come off, so we'll tag them, or maybe we won't tag those since they're color coded, but we're gonna take off a number of things. The transmission doesn't look super scary. It's a relatively small unit, but it's up here where the axles are is where we got to do a lot of work, and that's what we're gonna have to do, is loosen these lug nuts and stuff like that. But now, is there more stuff to take apart? Probably up here, but we're about to jack it up and get it squared away. Now, one thing I did notice when I took the air thing off is I apparently jammed that in there. That was all wrinkled, so that wasn't good. And then look at this one. This one was all jacked up. I mean, I didn't even make it look like I tried to do it correctly there. So I'll have to get that on there correctly next time. So this comes off with these two, hose clamp there, hose clamp there. I think it's still on the engine over there. Then there's this push pin right here. And then you have one little like vacuum hose or whatever right there that just has the clamps that come off right here. And let's see. You see it right there. So it's pretty easy. I just use those pliers. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take all these dumb plastic skid plates off. I shouldn't say dumb, but you know, I don't give them much protection. But we got to take those off first. Figure out a good place to jack on this thing. Probably like, this is pretty solid, but I'm going to do try to as much in the middle as possible to try to get both sides elevated so I can take off the wheels and tires, so I get the axles out. So we'll see how that goes. So I think there's about 4 bolts like these. These are the best taken off, not with a screwdriver, Phillips head, but a 12mm. And they have 4 or 5 of these. I lost count. I want to say 5, but I only have 3 there, and there's one left up here, and that one is way up there. I don't know if you can see that thing. Okay folks, so we're going to work on today getting the shield off from right here, this exhaust shield that's above the exhaust, which will give us access to the drive shaft, which should be somewhere around here. We're going to take off this piece of exhaust too. I'm not absolutely certain that that comes off, but that probably is pretty helpful to take off. This cross member, this support bracket right here, which is the end of the transmission right here, and then also the drive shafts. So we're gonna have to take off quite a bit of the wheel right there and stuff. So I have 14mm and 12mm right here to start taking off all of these shields and stuff, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay folks, so I will catch you up here. So we took the bracket that goes across here off. That is laying somewhere. Oh, I propped up the end of the drive shaft on that, just so it's kind of sitting a little more equal. And we obviously took off, as you can see there, the exhaust. So the exhaust goes basically all the way to the engine, pretty much where the headers are, or exhaust manifold, whatever you want to call them, all the way to back here. So that's allows you a little easier access to get to the drive shafts, which you can see the drive shaft comes off. The entire drive shaft comes off from there all the way to the part right there. As you see the end of it, and then the drive shaft is laying right there. And I want to say that thing is probably a good, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet long. It's got that, and we also took apart that. You have to take off a couple bolts on that part, which is 14mm. The rear bolts are 12mm. These were, I want to say these up here were 14, I believe, and I think maybe the ones in the middle were 17. You can see this thing definitely moves now. It still has this support right there, and it's still bolted there. We're going to start taking apart some stuff up top, but first I'm going to show you the wheel situation. As you can see from here, I have the half shafts out, or drive shafts, whatever you want to call them. So I just don't want a bug getting in there or something, so I just stuffed some lint-free things in there. I did drain the fluid out of it, so the fluid is all gone, and you can see my wheels are all cockeyed in the wrong position, but I'll get to that in just a minute so you can see what I did there. So you do have to take a fair amount of this, change everything and stuff too, so we'll kind of cover that in one of the next clips as well. But we have everything hanging up here, and see, that's just, you know, just hanging there. No more drive shaft, took all the shield off and all that stuff. So I'll hit the wheels next. Okay folks, you can see I took out the tie rod, and that just bumps off right here. Okay, and then this was shoved up in here, and that goes in there. So we're going to replace those, just because I figured the other side just kind of came out. This one we did have to kind of use a air hammer to get out, which is what the one guy said to do. And it does have a keeper, which is why this slot is here. And then the bolt goes through to keep the groove in there. So it's supposed to sort of press in there, but also that keeps it in there as well. And then this moves out of the way. So you need to take this off so this can swing out, and it's up there. But that swings out, and that goes to the shaft over there. And basically the other side is other side is exactly the same. So you can keep the brakes on. You can keep all of this, like ABS stuff, you know, any wheel sensor stuff. You can keep all that on. I was even able to keep my wheel spacers on, which I kind of was surprised about that. These don't have a cotter pin in them. Otherwise, I would have had to take off the wheel spacer. So there's that. And then they're sitting up here. They look like they're in here's all my stuff I'm labeling. But these are the interior parts of the drive shafts, and as you can see, they're a little, you know, they have the stuff on them still. And then these are the exterior parts that go to inside the wheel. So try to take out these real nice and smooth so you don't gonna, you know, screw up any of the seals. These look like they're in relatively good shape. They're dirty, but so I might, you know, try to fix that part, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so up here, we are to take these switches off. There's these switches go onto there. I don't know if I need to take off this bracket. I don't think so. I'm just gonna leave that bracket on there for now. This bracket is attached to the engine, so I'm gonna leave that there. And that is what this attaches to, which is what we just disconnected here. Now you have to take this bolt, that's a 14 millimeter, as well as this. This is just a bolt. That is a nut and a bolt on the other side, so I need to get something else there. I'm gonna take that whole bracket out right there. I'm gonna check any other connections to see if there's anything else going on over here. You can see we took out the starter. It is sort of dangling right there, and it just goes in right here. So you can kind of suspend it there. I might get a strap on it. This is from the air flow thing, if you remember, that air hose, air box, whatever. And then I just stuffed that. So then there's this. I think I have to take off that. That looks like that's just like probably a 10 millimeter. We'll get to this rest of the stuff and I will give you an update. But there's not a whole lot left to do. I'm getting to the point where I'm gonna need somebody to come in here and like help me, you know, keep it suspended as I unbolt the whole thing and unbolt that last bracket on the bottom. That should be about it, and then this thing should be coming out. So hopefully the next update will be us yanking the thing out. So I'll keep you posted. Okay folks, so you just tear off, these are 10 millimeter for this cover that goes on the bottom of this plate, and then right here to get the pieces out, they just go out that way. Is these two clips, you just pull them down. I just put some pliers in there and applied some force gently on this just to pry it, and they came out pretty easily, and then I just pulled them the rest of the way with some smaller pliers. And I used a screwdriver to undo these clips right here on either side, and it just slips out of this little ball thing here. Probably the shifter is going all over the place now. And that's this one right here. And then this one right here just slips off. So you just slide it off of there, and then they'll go out here and they'll go with the transmission. And we disconnected our brace up top. So basically we just have the transmission bolts and this cross member here, and then that's it. So I just want to find some bolts on the transmission, start on those, and I have the jack system here. I have some plywood under there. I have to center that up pretty good. I have my daughter coming out here to help me, because this is definitely probably going to be a two-man job, or two-person job, I should say. Okay folks, you can definitely see how much access there is here and what that little pancake engine looks like from the rear. And so we have the transmission out, sitting right there. That came out reasonably well once we got these dowels out right. Let's see where they were, like here, and no, right here, and well, the other one maybe came with the transmission. And then you have these out that have to, can't mess these up. What was that? I just threw away something. That thing right there, I'll have to figure out what that is. maybe it was part of something that came out. But anyway, so it did come out. It did require some finagling because even though we got everything off, it was pretty much stuck on those semi-rusted dowels. So we took that off in the last part when this kind of shifts back and forth. The shifter just swings around now, and I'll be interested to see how those like work together in there. So, but I'm not going to do that right now. So we took off this cross member piece. It's still sort of on the transmission right there, as you can see. And basically it was pretty easy. I actually took this off right here. You don't need to take off. I put that back on. I got the starter out of the way, you see there. But there really wasn't much. There was two nuts there, a bolt, and a bolt. And then the starter goes right there. So it's pretty straightforward. You just have to try to get it angled out directly. Actually, I probably have to take the pressure off that jack because I have it kind of the front of the engine angled up. That's what they said to do in the other video, so that's kind of what I did to try to keep that angle, because you do, as you can see, you do have that thing sticking out, you know, the shaft out of the front of the transmission, so you don't want to bend that, obviously. That would probably be kind of bad. Okay, so this is what a throwout bearing is supposed to look like. You see it's kind of like round and stuff, you know, kind of like that. That's what it's supposed to look like. This is what mine looks like. Yeah, that's a problem. The clutch overall, whereas it isn't bad, and this is what it looks like. I mean, it's definitely worn, you can see, but it has 111,000 miles. I bet this was probably the first time it's been replaced. Kind of smooth there. You can see the divots, but you can't really feel them. This is what the clutch looks like. You can definitely, ow, I got some metal shavings in my finger. I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to metal shavings. Anyways, you get an idea of what that kind of looks like. So this looks like a giant mess, but it's kind of an organized mess. And so here are the two pressure plates, the new and the old. And not really a whole lot of damage on this at all. It's pretty smooth. Same with the flywheel is pretty nice. This, I sprayed it with some brake cleaner to get junk off of it if there's any stuff on it, you know, film for so it doesn't rust or whatever. And these are squeezed in, so that is definitely different over time, I guess. That's what's happened, where this is definitely straight, so I guess that's definitely a good thing that I'm replacing that. And go from there. And then, oh, you can see that I have the new ball joints too. They come with new hardware and stuff too, so I'll throw that in there as well. And then the next thing before I do all that will be install this rear main seal, which I just decided I would do because why not, you know? So we'll get that squared away. Okay folks, so I am here doing the last bit of this. As you can see, I have the clutch out, the pressure plate is gone, as well as the flywheel. All of that is gone. This thing can come off too. And I already goobered that up a little bit. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drill a hole in there, nice and not too deep, and then pull that seal out. And the reason why I'm gonna do that is because I'm all the way here, and I'm the kind of guy that I'm lucky enough that as soon as I put this thing back together, probably the rear main seal would start leaking. So I like to be a, you know, don't fix it until it's broke kind of guy sometimes, but sometimes I think when it's right there, it's easy to do, it's pretty cheap, I figure I'll go ahead and do it. So that's what we're gonna do right now. But we're at the end, and this is pretty much the end of the video. I'll show you the condition of the old parts versus the new parts, but I will do another video for installation, which is essentially, you know, everything in reverse, but I will try to make a decent video of that as well. So there might be some different things, some torque specs that I throw in there that I'm trying to research. I've kind of researched some of them. I have a website that I looked at too that might be helpful for you as well. Anyway, so this is the end of the line for the disassembly portion.